Whether you visited NAB 2025 in Las Vegas or if you couldn't make the show, Steve Holmes and Kevin Salvidge of Leader want to give you the inside scoop on what's next in broadcast test and measurement in relation to the key technologies that dominated the discussions at the show. So, in the next 30-ish minutes, you'll get the inside track from Steve and Kevin. So, without delay, Steve and Kevin, over to you.
Thanks,
Cindy,
Cindy.
thank
Always.
you very much. And Steve, hello again, mate. How you doing?
Hey, I am doing outstanding, Kevin. How about you?
I'm good. So, obviously, this NAB show was rather different because I was 5,500 miles away watching it.
Yes, you bum. You were.
I missed it.
And I needed you badly. And you weren't there.
There were bits I missed, really, and then there's bits you think, you know what, I don't miss that bit. But anyway, so
Yes.
as we said, NAB 2025, Las Vegas in April was once again the pivotal event for the media, entertainment, and technology kind of industry worldwide, with over 55,000 attendees, of which 50%, it was the first time they attended the show, and representatives from 160 countries and over 1,100 exhibitors continue to highlight the transformation trends in innovations that are shaping their industry. But probably the biggest innovation that most people saw was what the convention center actually looked like, Steve, wasn't it?
It was, Kevin. It was a little bit different with all the construction on the center
So,
hall. Yeah,
yeah.
it gave people a little bit of walk around if you wanted to get over to the South Hall.
Yeah. So I think, first of all, we'd like to thank all those people who've put questions into us, because it has helped us put together our NAB review today. So I think the most obvious question, and thank you, Mark, out there for being the first cab off the rank with what was new and upcoming when it came to video test and measurement equipment at the show, Steve.
Yes, most definitely. So the first thing that comes up here, Mark, is Leader introduced a brand new waveform monitor, the LPX 500. Kevin?
We did. And for those of you who've been to IBC in September, you would have had a sneak preview of it. But obviously, the big announcement we had at NAB was it was working with both SDI video and IP, wasn't it, Steve?
It was. It was. On one side of the booth, we had 100 gig optical connections to it. The other side of the booth had 25 gig optical connections to it, and multiple SDI 4K videos. So the beauty of this device is it has the ability to have 4 independent inputs with full engines, analysis engines on each one of the inputs, and any input can be SDI or IP. So it is just a gorgeous, and the waveform quality on this thing is just phenomenal.
And also, as you know, we've shown, we also have a second screen, because we're seeing with IP and HDR, you need so many analysis tools open. But we've also changed the way this operates, haven't we? So that you can have the tools that you need to monitor, say, 90% of your production, but then you can build layouts off of that. So if you do need to go into the audio, or you need to go into the vector scope CIE color chart because you've got a color image, you just simply swipe, you know, using the touchscreen. And it is really responsive, Steve, isn't it? This is not a laggy touchscreen. This is really sharp and crisp.
Yeah. So you can set up layouts of screen presentations and literally don't even have to try to find a menu. Don't have to try to find a button. You can just swipe left or swipe right to the next layout and have a new layout position. and it's completely independent of what's going on the right screen versus what's going on the left screen. So whatever analysis you don't have going on one side, you can have going on the other side, and spread the analysis engines for an input across both screens. So it's just phenomenal.
Yeah. And what's been driving this is that, you know, this unsatiable appetite that consumers have for live sports content. And that's not just on the traditional box in the corner of the room now, it's on portable devices, you know, tablets, phones, laptops. But they all have one thing in common, don't they? That you have to start with the highest possible resolution, color space, basically the best of everything, so that you stand a fighting chance when you compress it, that the consumer can still watch it.
Yep. It's outstanding, Kevin.
So we've been asked by Joe what innovations in content creation, you know, were on show at NAB. And from watching from the outside, the one that struck me, again, is tied into live production. It's managing this kind of HDR, SDR production. You know, we're not going down the route of 3D where we had 2 trucks and 2 crews and, oh, it just became too complicated. And we've seen, you know, the industry now does seem to be settling very much on what's known as single layer SDR, HDR workflows, which is a method of producing both HDR and SDR outputs simultaneously from a single video feed. And Steve, you were showing a really elegant solution from Leader, weren't you, that works with the 3D LUTs that the productions are using?
Yeah, we were able to take a Grass Valley camera that has 3 simultaneous outputs. It can do SDI, 2110, and JPEG XS all at the same time, all frame synced. And we had those brought in to a single display on a waveform monitor. And we were also able to take, and it was coming in HLG, like a sports venue would be coming in. And we were able to take that input, run it through one of the 3D LUTs that we had loaded on the waveform monitor, and actually display the 709 version of that. Then take the SDI loop through of the HLG, the SDI loop through the LUT down to a Sony reference monitor, and put the pictures up side by side so you could see what the 709 looked like and what the HLG looked like simultaneously, all off the waveform monitor. So it gives you that ability to do exactly what you're talking about here, Kevin. Have that single layer, bring it in as HLG, and then be able to actually do the shading, the racking, typically on the 709, and let the HLG go where the HLG is going to go, based on setting the luma levels and everything correct at 709, which sets the breakpoint between HDR and SDR correctly in the HLG.
Steve, did I just pick up there? You said the camera was an IP source, yet you were monitoring it on a traditional SDI reference monitor. So
Yes, sir.
you had the waveform monitor not only applying the LUT, but it was acting as an IP to SDI gateway as well?
It certainly was. Yep. Yeah, we have the ability to take every single input that's going into the waveform monitor, if you have multiple IPs coming in, and actually output them as SDI, because right now any of the high-end reference monitors are all SDI, and to get it into your reference monitor that you want to watch, you're going to need an SDI output, and you don't need a third-party product, another piece of throwdown gear to flop that over to SDI to get it into the monitor.
All right. This is interesting, and I think we'll mention this a bit later on, won't we?
Yes.
We had a question from Margot saying, what were the most breakout audio products and trends? Well, from my view, there is one thing when you come to audio, and that's SMPTE 2110. Now that we've got separate video, audio, and ancillary data, it's giving us a lot of flexibility, isn't it, with the audio, Steve?
Yeah, and you can have a single audio flow, but send out metadata in how to break that audio flow up into individual deliverables. So you could have a 4-channel, a 5.1 channel, a 2-channel, all in that one presentation to the pipe, and actually say, okay, this is how you're going to break it up on the other end for what your deliverables need.
Because obviously with SDI video, we were restricted to 16 channels. And most people assumed that 1 and 2 were stereo left and right, and then we went from that. Whereas now, as you just said, you can break them down. And I think the other great thing is that with 2110, if you need more than 16 channels of audio, it's not a problem, is it?
No, it easily supports 32 to 64 channels.
So in summary, 2110 frees audios from the shackles of SDI. One might ironically say we've gone back to the flexibility of analog audio. Moving on.
Yes.
Carlos, thank you for your question. So, what do you see as the main challenges for companies moving to SMPTE 2110? So, we're going to talk about the technology here. I mean, there's lots of stuff documented out there about understanding from a point of view of a broadcast engineer when you become that kind of hybrid broadcast network engineer. And again, we've got information up on our YouTube channel that, you know, is really good if you want to dip your toe in the water and start understanding it. But I think, Steve, I think the biggest challenge that we see from most people is the reference sources, isn't it?
That's one of them, because the IP requires PTP as its reference source. But let's face it, you're still going to have SDI floating around the plant, and you need your PTP and your SDI to be absolutely perfectly timed with each other in any condition, whether it's, you know, if you have a failure of GPS, you still need to keep all of those output services that you're coming off your SPG still synced to each other so that they will not drift away.
Yeah. And, you know, we're fortunate with the 4670 that, you know, we've got this not only GPS connection, but an internal single oven controlled internal oscillator. And all of those reference sources are connected directly to it. They're not like Black and Burst is off of PTP, off of the oscillator. And we're a broadcast company. So things like stay in sync if you lose GPS and slow sync if the reference returns come as standard with our products. And this is the one that people sort of suddenly wake up in the middle of the night with a cold sweat about, saying, well, hold on a minute. I've got my traditional infrastructure with my primary and backup SPG, but the best master clock algorithm is not monitoring the emergency changeover unit. So if something happens to my Black and Burst and the ECO causes a switch, does that mean my PTP is still on the primary and now everything else is on the backup? Or vice versa? We've thought of this, and with the changeover unit, you know, Steve, we've got a very elegant solution, haven't we, that keep both reference sources paired to the same device.
We do, Kevin, and it turns into a maintenance nightmare, what Kevin was talking about, because since the switching of PTP is done on the network with the two PTP sources talking to each other, and all of your baseband Black Burst test signals, the AES signals are all done through the ECO. They don't switch at the same time natively, they need a little help to communicate that. And we've built that into the products so that we can keep them in sync, if you will, that if PTP switches, we can have the black also switch, because the reason you want that is because you'd have half of your signals on one unit, half your signals on the other unit, and the signals that were in fault, the maintenance guy is going to go in and grab that SPG and start doing things to it, and it's still holding up half of your test signals and sync signals. So you don't want anything on that SPG that was originally at fault or had the output being at fault, even if it wasn't the SPG's fault. And it gives you the ability to get in there if you need to reboot it, power it down, put new firmware on it, that everything is moved over to the backup SPG.
And this makes it possible to construct an extremely reliable and robust synchronization system that basically is the heartbeat of your broadcast facility.
Yep.
So next, your favorite subject, Steve. Carl asked the question, what is the industry status with NMOS? We also had a second question from Emilio. What are the leading NMOS registry and management software providers that you can recommend or have worked with? Well, I think rather than naming people, what I'd like to do is we'd like to point you in the direction of the work that AMWA and the JT&M have done, with lots of interoperable testing that we as manufacturers love and hate, I think is probably the term here.
Yes. And Emilio, the piece about the registry, it's in almost all cases built into the control network that you'd be controlling your system with from even the SDI side. So you have to have a control system to run your routers. So that same control system that would run an SDI router now has the NMOS built into it. So not only can your router panel route your SDI signals, that router panel can now also route your 2110 sources. So the manufacturers are building the NMOS into whichever control system that each vendor ends up using.
Matt asks, with hybrid cloud workflows becoming standard, where does test and measurement fit in? Well, I think, from 5,500 miles away, it's clear that, we face challenges, the industry face challenges, and it's looking for efficiencies and savings. And potentially, if you design this right, this could be the way forward for you. But you're going to end up with some form of hybrid system, aren't you, Steve? That's going to require test and measurement on the ground and some form of monitoring and analysis in the cloud to make sure what you've put up there is right. And then if you're doing any, shall we say, processing with it, so maybe 4K to HD conversion, HDR to SDR, that it's done that correctly. So, there's no getting away from test and measurement. It's needed. It's just like when we moved to 2110, isn't it? Suddenly there are different analysis tools. 2110 doesn't need iPattern, but suddenly it needs inter-packet arrival. It's a different suite of tools, isn't it, Steve?
It is. And we have some tools that we are working on that are cloud tools that were actually shown by some other vendors that were running cloud instances at the NAB show and had our cloud waveform monitor sitting in it. So we do have I don't know if you'd call it a beta version of a cloud source waveform monitor that we have, and it was on display at NAB.
But cloud products and 2110 kind of go hand in hand. They're aware of each other, but there are other standards out there as well. And one that I think, has gained a lot of traction is NDI, the Network Device Interface. For those who don't know, it is a low latency software-centric compression of IP with an IP video protocol. And it's gaining a lot of traction, isn't it, Steve?
It is, especially for PTZ cameras. The majority of the PTZ cameras on the market, especially since you can do, PoE, power over Ethernet, and you can have one Ethernet connection to the camera, and it brings everything back. It powers the camera, gives you the control layer, and brings the video data back. In this NDI, we have come up with a test solution for monitoring and helping you install NDI that gives you a host of data. It tells you every NDI source that's there, tells you about all of the parameters that the NDI is running, and biggest thing is frame rate and drop frames. So if you're having network congestion errors or problems, it will help you identify those, and you can go back through your switches and find out who's not passing your NDI flow correctly. And it runs on your laptop.
Yeah. And this also works live.
Yes. It is continuous. It isn't just a little 2-second clip here and there. You put it on, run it, it creates a log file, so you can actually have it running on a computer or your laptop and have it go through and monitor a show, and it will tell you the time that any errors happened because it's got a log file, and let you know what's going on.
I mean, I've had a couple of people talk to me that they use NDI for like press conferences, and so they set up with somebody else's tool for 10 minutes because that's how long the press conference is slated to happen. But then suddenly they don't turn up for 4 or 5 minutes, and what do? You can't extend it. With this, you just let it run, and if they start on time, you're laughing. If they're late, no problem. You've still got a full log of the whole press conference, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah.
And as we said, this is Leader's first software product. So the release date is getting very, very close. So depending on when you're watching this, it may well have been released. But if you want to be the first to know about this, please use the QR code on the screen where you can register your interest. And as I said, as soon as it's available, you'll get notification, and we're even offering a trial license that you can try. And then if you like it, if it fits what you want to do, you can just go ahead and buy the fully licensed version. So it's an exciting product, and talking to NDI operators, they've been crying out for, what's the term? Somebody who does test and measurement properly to get involved.
Touche.
So Lewis asked us about HD only products, because there are people out there who 4K, UHD, HDR, IP in the cloud, is of no interest really. And this got me thinking that you've kind of got what we call this content creators infrastructure technology iceberg. I'm sure I'd come up with a more snappy name than that. But anyway, what it basically highlights is that, we go to trade shows and we see all the shiny new toys, don't we? But that's probably the top 10% of what people are actually using. We've got 90% of the iceberg that's submerged, and that's where the majority of our customers are working, aren't they, Steve?
They are, Kevin. And the nice thing about it is we still have a full portfolio of products that if, yes, you're SDI only. You're not going to go past HD. We have a set of waveform monitors that fit that exact need. They are SDI up through 3G products. They have no IP on them, so you're not paying for other pieces that you'll never use, and they are for that exact thing that you just called out for, Kevin.
Yeah. I mean, the number of people I talk to who've got half rack unit rasterizers, and they're being told the alternative is a full rack unit.
With IP built into it, because it comes with IP and SDI is the option.
And just to rub salt in the wound, there's no physical buttons on it.
Yeah.
So if that's, you know, something that's concerning you, you know, I've been in facilities where it's got big labels saying do not switch off test and measurement, and asked them why, and they said we are absolutely scared that if we do, it ain't going to come back on again. So
well, yeah, that's because they're running a product that's about 15 years old and they're afraid the power supply won't start back up.
yeah. So as I said, if you've got any of these, or if they've been causing you a concern, contact Steve or myself, and we can walk you through and configure exactly the product that best fits your both physical and operational requirements. So Farad asked a question. Do Leader publish the application programming interface details, or API as we more commonly know it? And the answer is yes. And we'd like to recommend you visiting our new website, which is www.leaderfabrics.com/contact support. And when you go there, you'll then be able to select the product that you're looking for the API from. And
Yes.
then you can dive in there and start developing.
Yeah. Sorry, Kev.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I think the Fabrics API, you know, we've got a lot of manufacturers, haven't we, who basically use our products to design, test, and build their products.
Yes.
And the API interface just allows them to automate that testing process, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. So every product we have has an API to it. Some of the API languages are fractionally different, but every product we have is fully controllable over the API.
And they're also asked the question, do you see AI in test and measurement, and what is the application? One might cynically say AI is the latest rebranding of something that's been around for a long time, Steve.
It has. I actually worked on systems in the 1990s that were doing what we would call AI, because it was taking trouble tickets in of working on, you know, a cable distribution system, and it would come up with the faults and what it took to fix that fault. And then when a ticket would come in, it would actually give the technician that was going out that, you know, 60% of the time, this has been the error that has happened that has caused this fault. So they had a chance before they ever got there of looking in the right place.
Yeah. And that's what we're highlighting here. You've got that signal quality monitoring, but root cause analysis.
Yes. The issue with AI is it generally takes a little bit of power and a huge database, because it's what they call a learning algorithm. And it has to build these databases off of trends that are fed to it. And it keeps learning new and more things. And it has to be able to search all of that, put all that together, and then present that to you. So in a waveform monitor, probably not for some time, just because of the expense and the cost it would be for the extra processing. But for system wide monitoring, where it looks at kind of the overall level of a system and looks for trends that are going to pop up, there's probably where we're going to see it first.
Well, I mean, we've already seen it, haven't we, with content analysis and QC engines?
Yes.
You know, doing those kind of boring, mundane tasks that one might argue the boring, mundane tasks are how you learn to do the job ultimately, but that's another discussion for another seminar.
Yes, it is.
But also we're seeing it, aren't we, with the orchestration engines and that they're kind of optimizing the workflows because they can analyze the network traffic. They can see where there's congestion. Maybe they can see where there's issues and they can route the signals through different switches, you know. So it's happening. But as you know, as Steve has highlighted here, it's not going to replace the broadcast engineer. I mean, look at session description protocol files. They're kind of automatically created. And most of the time, you need a product like the leader waveform monitors and that to go in and interrogate them because they're not right. So it's going to remove those boring, repetitive tasks. It's going to speed up fault diagnostics. And it's going to improve signal quality assurance. And it's going to give us predictions and insights before problems occur. But you still need to use tools like the Leader and Fabrics products to be able to have that human understanding of what's going on, is my opinion.
To do the final fault analysis and the fixing. And the thing, you know, an MCR test, you know, that's also going to come with a cost. They're not necessarily cheap because they are a very large database engine and a lot of processing power.
So we've had a question from Tony. What's the realistic future of linear legacy over-the-air TV in the world of streamers and 4 and 5K? Wow. So one thing that
if you've got the answer to that one, Tony, go to Vegas.
Yeah, put it all on black.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that one's, you know, I think, you know, like we have up on the screen here, ATS 3.0 is trying to get there. But yeah, streaming to your cell phone is, you know, I've got, I don't know how many streaming services that I can actually bring up on my phone. It's really, really hard to compete. I think linear traditional broadcast will be around for another who knows how many decades. But yeah, it's a tough battle because one of the things most of the streaming needs in one way or another is a two-way communication pipe. And on an over-the-air broadcast, that return path of communication is on your home internet feed or some other internet feed, and you're getting data through one path and you have this return path that's a completely different path and different latencies, different everything else. So it's fun to tie those two together. It really is. Yeah. It's a challenge.
I mean, I've heard a lot of people talk about that they want to use streaming services to complement their main channels and basically to draw eyeballs to the main channel with content that they can't put on streaming platforms. So yeah, I don't think there are enough days in the week to go around this one, but thank you for the question. And from a test and measurement perspective, we're interested because the services that are running it traditionally are now running HDR, and again, that needs analysis. So we had a couple of questions which should we be polite and say thank you for your questions, but I think you may have got the wrong people. The first one was the future of MXL, which, if I'm correct, I'm assuming you're talking about the media exchange language. And we had an inquiry about, and I had to look this one up, FIPS 140-2 and -3.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I even searched this one up using a search engine, and even that came back and said that nothing seemed to be discussed about it at NAB. So I'm afraid I think we've done a pretty good job, but we can't answer absolutely everything.
Yeah, that mainly I think shows up in the military end of the business, and yeah.
Yeah. And we were asked by William, what did you see at NAB that surprised and delighted you? I had somebody tell me that they went to
Yes.
buy a $5 bottle of water from a vending machine, and the vending machine asked for a tip. At that point, I leave you that the world has gone mad.
Yes. Yes. And then somebody on our booth actually went and got that bottle of water, and the machine asked him for a tip. And it's like, oh my gosh.
Oh dear. So thank you everybody once again for your questions. If you suddenly thought of something else that, oh, I should have fired that in, I think most of you know where we are. And you know that we will respond to you, whether you like it or not, we will get back to you. If you'd like to see the videos that are associated with this, there is a playlist from the show. Steve kindly took some time out of his busy schedule to host a session that we did 5,500 miles apart. And we teased this, didn't we? We're going to be back. We're going to be talking about 3D LUTs under the snappy title of At Last Something 3D That Will Benefit Broadcasters and Might Stick. So the QR code's on the screen. The registration's open for that one. We're going to be doing that on May 29th. And if you happen to be in Europe, or more specifically, if you happen to be in the UK, I will be, and Leader will be exhibiting at the Media Production Show in London at Olympia on the 14th and 15th. We're taking bookings now, or you can walk up and say hello and talk to me like you know me and make me go mad thinking, have I met you before? Because we know, you know, we've got a very loyal audience, haven't we, Steve, that really do enjoy what we do here. And, if it wasn't for you and telling us what you need, we'd run out of ideas pretty quick, wouldn't we?
Yeah, we would. So
So
everybody, I hope you got some enjoyment out of this. I hope it opened up maybe a few things to ask some more questions about things. So we want to thank you for joining us today.
until 50 weeks time, when we dust ourselves down, do it all again. Or obviously, if you're in Europe and you want to come to see us in Amsterdam, we will be at IBC. So thank you, everybody, once again. And have a good what's left of the Labor Day holiday.
Cindy?
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Steve. You answered my burning questions from the show. Good to see you. Thank you.
Everybody, have a great rest of your evening, day, morning, wherever you may be.
Thank you, everybody, and all the best.